So this dude wakes up in another world with no memories? Classic isekai, right? Wrong. Instead of fighting demon lords, he ends up joining the Eat Everything in Sight squad, a powerful princess with a bottomless stomach, a cat girl who pretends not to care, and the sweetest elf guide ever. But don't get it twisted, there are still monsters to fight. Yuki wakes up to see Amith, but he doesn't quite understand what is happening. Amith apologizes for waking him and tells him he can sleep longer so she can focus on her task. Knowing that Yuki is confused about everything going on, Amith comments that he is reacting as if they have never met, which makes her feel sad. She introduces herself, explaining that she cannot interact with reality until her self-repair is complete. Bro got Windows XP updates running in the background. Because of this, she has arranged for someone to serve him in her place. After saying her piece, Yuki is suddenly thrown back into reality. As he falls from the sky, a foodie princess sees him and mistakenly assumes he is a shooting star. Imagine making a wish and the shooting star is just some random dude fallen. Meanwhile, Kokoro recalls her father's instructions not to fail in carrying out Ameth's oracle and is on her journey to find her assigned master. As Kokoro tries to make herself look more attractive for her master, she wonders what kind of person they will be before continuing her journey. Approaching a hill, she catches a glimpse of someone's legs whom she assumes is her master. However, as she gets closer, she discovers two weird-looking wolves violating Yuki, who is unconscious. Upon seeing Kokoro, the wolves flee, taking Yuki with them. Kokoro manages to drive them away, but Yuki is still unconscious. After a while, he wakes up to the sound of Kokoro singing. Her cringe singing seems to have pulled him back from the dead. Respect. She asks if he is okay, but bro is too traumatized to speak. Kokoro introduces herself as his guide sent by Amith and dedicates herself entirely to his service. Although Yuki finds it difficult to talk, he manages to tell her his name when she asks. Later on, Kokoro prepares food for him while filling him in on a few things. She informs him that, according to Amith, he has lost most of his memories, which is why she's there to guide him. Just as Yuki's stomach rumbles, Kokoro finishes preparing the food and offers him some. He is pleased with the taste. Suddenly, the wolves return, since they see potentially tasty meat in Yuki. Kokoro tells Yuki that the wolves are a suitable opponent for him at the moment and encourages him to fight them off for experience, which will help him recover his original powers. The wolves then get attacked by their lunch, and they overpower him, dragging him away, causing Kokoro to chase after them. When she finds Yuki, Kokoro apologizes for putting him through such an ordeal when he had just woken up. Yuki tries to act like he's okay, but the wolves did a number on him, and bro collapses, taking the little aura he had down with him. Meanwhile, the princess takes a break for her journey to Landasol to refresh herself. While enjoying her moment, she suddenly hears cries for help. Following the sounds, she discovers two guys, Charlie and Ikachi, huddled together and crying. Ikaki is in pain, and Charlie explains that his bro has chronic beriberi, claiming that his medicine is in a sack up the hill and asking for her help to retrieve it. The princess agrees and rushes to get the medicine, unaware that Ikaki and Charlie are faking it to steal from her. When she returns with the medicine, she cannot find them and then quickly spots the two men running away with her belongings. The princess chases after them, but not for the reason you might expect. Eventually, Kokoro and Yuki arrive in Landasol, and she expresses her relief that Yuki is not injured, despite everything he has been through. They overhear some guy asking girls to join him for a bath, and Yuki notices that one of the girls has a tail. Kokoro explains that their world consists of various races and that she herself is an elf. When Kokoro turns to Yuki, she realizes he's no longer beside her and sees him heading toward a stall. Kokoro joins Yuki, and the girl there assumes she is his little sister, but she immediately disagrees. The girl then guesses she is his girlfriend, and Kokoro again disagrees, her cheeks turning red. After Yuki decides what to buy, Kokoro gives him money, but since he has monkey brain at the moment, he tries to eat it. Kokoro is surprised and then explains the usefulness of money to him. The girl returns with their order to see Kokoro still explaining like she is talking to a toddler. As they sit down to eat, Kokoro comments on how nice it is, mentioning that she has never eaten anything like that before. She also praises Yuki for his efforts today and suggests he could stay to rest while she looks for lodging for them. However, the lodges they visit are too expensive, and since they are brokies, they are denied a room. Kokoro apologizes to Yuki, but he is cool with it. They then decide to gain some camping experience instead. Yuki settles in well and quickly falls asleep, while Kokoro feels grateful that Yuki hasn't criticized her shortcomings and has fully accepted her. As soon as she closes her eyes to get some sleep herself, the wolves, persistent like you and your crush's DMs, show up and drag Yuki away. Their mama didn't raise quitters. Kokoro chases after them. The next morning, Kokoro apologizes to Yuki for not being more alert, adding that at this rate he might get eaten by a wolf someday. That is why she has decided to work so they can sleep indoors. Kokoro tells Yuki to have fun in the meantime and eat whatever he wants. She hands him his allowance for the day, saying she will return in the evening and they should meet back at that spot later. Yuki's reaction makes her worry that the allowance she gave him is too small, and she apologizes. But Yuki hugs her, excited to have some coins. They head to the guild association, with Yuki willing to work too. Karin welcomes them to the association and offers to help with anything they need. Kokoro asks to see the bulletin board where jobs are posted, and Karin agrees to show them. Kokoro searches for beginner jobs but only finds higher level ones. Karin then shows him a job she thinks would be suitable, a collection quest for mushrooms that grow in the Gado ruins. She recommends it since it is not too dangerous. Meanwhile, the princess defeats some monsters on her way and worries about the guys from the previous day, as she wasn't able to get his medicine for him. She also feels concerned about her sword they possess, which was given to her by her parents. Her stomach rumbles as she feels hungry from all the fighting. Just then, she sees the men and calls out to them, asking if they are okay, but they both flee. Charlie wonders why she is so persistent, while Ikachi is surprised that she actually believed them. The princess chases after them, calling out to them that she has Ikaki's medicine. The dudes hide under a bush, and when they assume they have lost her, they come out relieved. Charlie informs Ikaki that they will soon arrive at Landasol, where they can then sell the sword. While they are talking, something falls from the tree onto them. Meanwhile, Kokoro and Yuki are in the same forest for their mission of finding some some shrooms. Kokoro shows Yuki spots where he is likely to find the mushrooms, and they begin gathering. After collecting quite a few, Kokoro finds a cute little mushroom. It looks unusual, but she names it and decides to keep it anyway. However, crows start cawing at her, so she hides it in her bag. Yuki comes across the princess, who has passed out from hunger. Kokoro then cooks some food for the princess, who stuffs her face with it. Eventually, all the food disappears, and she thanks them for sharing their food with her. Kokoro asks why she is there, and the princess replies that she is visiting her homeland Landasol, since it has been a long time. She inquires about them as well, and Kokoro explains their mission. Seeing that the princess is still hungry, Kokoro offers her some mushrooms. Meanwhile, a girl watches them from the shadows. She casts a spell that brings forth huge mushrooms from the ground to attack the trio. The shrooms advance on them, but the princess is still eating. Once she swallows, she tells Kokoro that the shrooms are after her and apologizes for getting them involved. Immediately, Yuki steps in to defend her. Not knowing how to refer to the princess, Kokoro gives her the nickname Pecorine and reassures her that they will fight together. The princess loves the nickname but insists she can handle herself, proving her strength by swiftly defeating a few of the mushrooms. Meanwhile, Kokoro casts a spell to enhance Yuki's speed. However, as he charges into battle, he gets beat down by a mushroom. Bro really out here losing to fungi. Another mushroom grabs Kokoro, causing her bag to fall. Just as they are about to hurt her, Yuki has flashbacks and rushes in to save her. He does a good job holding off the mushroom, and Ameth grants him Princess Knight powers. Pecorine is also covered by it, giving her the strength to fight against the mushrooms. She rescues Kokoro, who admires Yuki's newfound abilities as a Princess Knight. Energized by the aura, Kokoro casts a spell that defeats one of the mushrooms. Yuki is exhausted, and Pecorine takes over, using her Princess Strike to take down all the mushrooms, after which they gather them all together. More shrooms for them thanks to the secret girl. Kokoro suggests that they talk to Karen after collecting all the mushrooms. As she continues working, the little cute mushroom decides to lunge at her to leech off her nutrients since its original plan was disrupted. Turns out it is a dangerous shroom, a part of the same ones that attacked the thieves and drained off their nutrients. As the mushroom aggressively flies toward Kokoro, who is unaware of the danger, Pecorine catches it and eats it. However, this makes her high, and they end up having to carry her home. The next morning, Carol comes across a lonely cat and relates to it. Who needs friends anyway? She thinks it's easier to be alone and then leaves to complete her mission. She is pulling that Sasuke work alone energy. Meanwhile, Kokoro goes to invite Yuki for breakfast, but he is not in his room. She finds him training outside, and despite getting hurt, he keeps trying, which makes Kokoro proud of him. Later, they have breakfast using the compensation they receive from the mushroom mission. Kokoro expresses her concern for Pecorine, but she assumes they will see her again since they are in the same city. She also raises the issue of finding a place to stay before their money runs out. At that moment, a dude approaches them and asks if they have money problems. Yuki admits that they do, and the man informs them that they can start their own guild, and the guild association will lend them a house to use as a base of operations. Kokoro likes this idea, but the restaurant owner warns the man to stop giving his customers silly ideas. The man then apologizes and leaves. After eating, Kokoro mentions that seeing Yuki practicing hard with his sword made her want to support him, so she made him a small gift, even though it's a pretty useless one. Yuki appreciates it anyway. Meanwhile, Pecorine wakes up in a stable with a horse licking her face. Still hungover from the previous day, she goes to a body of water to wake herself up. She realizes she needs to find her sword, but her stomach rumbles, shifting her mission to finding something to eat. On the other side, the thieves have regained their strength and are in Landasol. Charlie comments that he thought they were goners until some crows ate the mushrooms that were violating them. Akaki says they should sell the sword already so they can make a fortune. Kokoro and Yuki are job hunting when they see a crowd watching Pecorine consume a huge amount of food. She sees them and approaches, thanking them for escorting her into town the previous day. Kokoro is concerned about the situation, but Pecorine explains that she is simply helping herself to breakfast in an eating contest. Just then, the thieves also arrive to check out what is happening. Pecorine spots them, but they flee before she can give them their medicine, so she chases after them, forgetting her prize money. Yuki and Kokoro follow her. Meanwhile, Carol is watching everything from the shadows. Pecorine loses sight of them. Meanwhile, the dudes are hiding nearby. Kokoro asks how she knows the thieves, and Pecorine explains everything that happened. Even Kokoro can see that the men tricked her into believing they were sick, but Pecorine, who was oddly optimistic or just flat out dumb, believes otherwise. Suddenly, a monster appears. Kokoro wonders what it is doing so close to civilization, but it turns out the monster is under Carol's magical influence. Pecorine decides to take on the monster by herself, claiming she has more energy since she just had a hearty breakfast. She swings into action, skillfully dodging the monster's attacks, while Carol watches from the shadows. Carol increases the monster's powers, but Pecorine uses her princess power to defeat it in order to protect the town. Pecorine is the definition of if dumb but strong was a person. Kokoro praises Pecorine's skills, admitting she doubted Pecorine could beat it barehanded. Pecorine replies that it would have been easier if she had a sword. They then hear noises nearby and find Carol passed out next to the monster. Kokoro sings her back to life lullaby, and it works. Her singing is basically the opposite of Hatsune Miku. Carol walks up to see Pecorine up in her face. She bombards Carol with a series of questions on how she is feeling, and Carol asks for some personal space. Kokoro is relieved that Carol is okay. When Carol asks who they are, Kokoro introduces herself and explains that they found Carol unconscious nearby. Pecorine, always thinking about food, offers Carol something to eat but ends up burning her lips twice while trying to feed her. Carol, annoyed, tells Pecorine to stop trying to force feed her hot food. Despite being weak, Carol refuses any support, insisting that she can walk on her own. She walks away without thanking them because no one asked them to do any of that. The others watch her leave in silence. Once Carol is at a safe distance, she scolds herself for getting caught and nursed by her target. For some reason, she is also upset that the princess is referring to herself as Pecorine. Carol then promises not to fail in bringing her down next time. As Carol watches from the treetop, she wonders wonders why Pecorin does not have her sword. She recalls that Pecorin was also not with it during the battle the previous day. Carol assumes she has the upper hand and can easily defeat Pecorin since she doesn't have her word. Just then, she spots some thieves with Pecorin's sword and is left wondering why though. The guys are discussing how to sell the sword when a dragon suddenly spots them and approaches. Ikachi initially thinks it has just become cloudy, but when they turn to see the dragon they are frightened and run from it. Carol wonders what a dragon is doing so close to the capital. She watches as it carries them away and an idea suddenly comes to her. Carol goes to the trio who happen to be searching for something at the moment. When Pecorin sees Carol, she refers to her as the girl who can't eat hot food, which upsets Carol. She corrects Pecorin by stating her name and then offers to help them as they had assisted her earlier. In response, Pecorin explains everything about the berry man they are trying to find. Pecorin describes the thieves to Carol and she informs them that she has seen them and tells them which direction. When Carol mentions a dragon, they are surprised, but Kokoro recalls seeing a job posting about a dragon that has been attracted to riches around Landasol recently. They conclude that the dragon is after the sword, and Pecorin pities the thieves, seeing them as merely caretakers of her sword who are now in trouble for trying to help her. Final boss of Delulu. Kokoro is surprised to learn that the sword belongs to Pecorin and tries to explain to her that she is mistaken about the thieves' intentions, but Carol interrupts, saying she knows the men's location, prompting Pecorin to hug her in gratitude. Carol then leads them to the spot where they find the dragon sleeping on its pile of treasures, with the thieves serving as makeshift stuffed animals to help it sleep. Carol stops at this point and refuses to join them in the fight. Pecorin is fine with this and thanks her for showing the way. Carol escapes Pecorin's grip, saying she will look for somewhere safe to hide. The trio devises a plan and swings into action. Yuki approaches the dragon, trying to distract it, while Pecorin tries to sneak up on it and safely retrieves the sword. The thieves, noticing this, feel a little hopeful until the dragon eats Yuki, though Kokoro's magic protects him from harm. Pecorin springs into action, but Carol immediately casts a spell on the dragon, enhancing its power to eliminate Pecorin. The dragon swats them against a wall, but Pecorin clutches her sword tightly. Kokoro is worried for them, while Carol is desperate to see Pecorin defeated. The dragon then takes off flying, trying to shake off Pecorin. Pecorin falls but grabs onto Ikaki's afro. She apologizes, but he reassures her that he has strong roots. Unfortunately, his roots aren't as strong as he thought, and they uproot, leaving him with a bald spot and causing Pecorin to fall off. Peril is excited that her plan is working, but the tables turn when Pecorin uses her princess power to land a punch on the dragon, causing it to crash to the ground right next to Carol. As Carol's magic wears off, the dragon tries to attack her, but Pecorin intervenes with her sword she successfully retrieved. The dragon, now upset, spits Yuki out and breathes fire at Pecorin, but she defends with her sword and remains unharmed. Eventually, Pecorin takes down the dragon with her princess strike. Afterward, the thieves express their gratitude while crying. Kokoro attends to Yuki, and Pecorin thanks Carol for guiding them there. Upon returning to the city, the thieves say goodbye to Pecorin. After they leave, she invites Carol to dinner, but Carol declines, only for her stomach to growl, embarrassing her. They sit down together to eat rice cakes, and Pecorin expresses her gratitude for having people to share beautiful moments with, as she has mostly traveled alone. An idea strikes her, and she suggests they start a guild together. Kokoro mentions that she and Yuki have been wanting to start one too. Pecorin extends the invitation to Carol, who declines, saying she doesn't want to be part of their little gang, and walks away. She feels stupid, but on her way, she notices the lonely cat, now friends with the other cats. The next day, Carol remembers how crazy strong Pecorin was and says she's cheating. Carol then decides to find Pecorin's weakness so it will be easy to take her down. Meanwhile, Pecorin is asleep in the stables, mumbling about food. Once she wakes up, she excitedly wanders through the city while Carol observes her closely, noting that all she seems to care about is filling her stomach. Pecorin bumps into Ikaki and Charlie, who thank her for saving them. They mention a restaurant they frequent, and Pecorin eagerly decides to follow them. Kokoro goes to the guild association to pick up a guild application. She informs Karen that she has found some people she wants to start a guild with, but isn't ready to begin just yet. Karen understands and wishes her luck while handing over the application form. While Yuki is chilling and admiring the gift Kokoro gave him, he notices a girl with a magical object who appears weak and clearly out of breath. She suddenly faints right in front of him. Being the gentleman that he is, Yuki approaches her to check if she is okay. Surrounded by people who believe food is the answer to every problem, he offers her a rice ball before walking away without saying anything more. The girl, however, looks at him with evil intentions as he leaves. Kokoro meets Yuki halfway and tells him that she has gotten the application, which he approves of. As they walk, they overhear someone commenting on Pecorin's foodie abilities, and they spot Carol spying from outside. Still hoping to find Pecorin's weakness, Carol is startled when Yuki speaks and scolds them for sneaking up on her. Kokoro asks what Carol is doing, and Carol stutters, struggling to come up with an excuse before finally saying that she is a little hungry and is just checking to see what they serve. Kokoro then suggests that Carol join them for breakfast, since they are planning to eat too. Carol initially tries to refuse the offer, but her stomach growls loudly, betraying her hunger. Once inside, they spot Pecorin, who has just successfully defeated the thieves in an eating competition and is still full of energy. She happily invites the others to share a meal with her. Her stomach is obviously a black hole. While they eat, Pecorin notices that Carol seems grumpy and asks her what's wrong, insisting that food will solve her issues and shoving a plate in. Carol pushes it away and wonders why Pecorin is being so friendly when she doesn't even know her intentions. Pecorin assumes Carol doesn't like the food and shows her a menu to pick from. Carol makes her selection, but the laid-back owner of the cockatrice's nest informs them that they are out of ingredients. Carol accuses Pecorin of eating too much and finishing the restaurant's supplies. Kokoro suggests they go to another restaurant, but Pecorin insists that the cockatrice's nest has a secret menu. The owner is surprised and asks where she heard that, and Pecorin snitches that Ikaki told her about it. She requests to be served the secret dish, which turns out to be bugs. Carol feels sick just looking at it and is against the idea of trying it, but the others are enthusiastic. Despite Carol's attempts to dissuade made them, Kokoro has already started munching on the bugs, claiming they taste good, and Yuki tries some as well. As Carol tries to scold them again, Pecorine seizes the moment to feed her a bug. Carol falls face first onto the table, thinking it might be the end of her, but after a few seconds, she lifts her head and amidst the food, low-key slaps. Pecorine then apologizes for being overly excited, promising she'll try to be calmer. Carol finally agrees to join them for the meal only because she's hungry. They finish off with coffee, during which Kokoro uses the opportunity to tell Pecorine and Carol about the guild. Pecorine immediately agrees to join and hugs Kokoro, but Carol refuses, insisting she has no interest in guilds and says her goodbyes. As she walks away, Carol scolds herself for getting friendly with them when her mission is to eliminate Pecorine. Still tasting the bugs, Carol decides to cleanse her palate with some fruit. She enjoys the fruit's flavor and thinks it would be even better if paired with the food they just had. Her moment is cut short when Christina approaches her. Their conversation is brief as Carol is uninterested in engaging. Christina finds this cute. Later that night, while Yuki sleeps, Kokoro writes down the names of those who will be joining her guild and leaves a space for Carol's name, still hopeful. The next day, Pecorine informs the group that she will be taking a part-time job at the bug-serving restaurant as she has run out of money. Kokoro feels hesitant to show her the application form she filled out. Pecorine is really good at her job, and Kokoro realizes they may not be starting their guild anytime soon. Yuki offers Pecorine some food to ease her worries. Hikachi and Charlie commend Pecorine for her skills as a waitress, which excites her. Just then, 3 girls enter the restaurant and Pecorine welcomes them and offers them a table. She is so full of energy. After a while, Pecorine approaches them to ask if it's their first time at the restaurant. Misogi tells her they are part of the guild, Little Lyrical, so she shouldn't treat them like kids. However, she adds that their guild is not officially registered yet, as they do not meet the age limit. Pecorine comments that they're a nice group of friends, and an awkward silence follows until Misogi's stomach rumbles and breaks it. Pecorine then offers to get them food, and since they are unsure of what to order, Mimi asks Pecorine for a recommendation, which she gladly agrees to provide. Meanwhile, Carol paces back and forth outside the restaurant, recalling her master's instruction to observe Pecorine instead, as the assassination has been called off due to changing circumstances. The woman points out that Carol has not become fully accustomed to the Princess Knight's power she bestowed on her, prompting Carol to ask for forgiveness. Her master then says she will guide her on a path to follow. With that, Carol decides to enter the restaurant. As she enters, she sees Pecorine trying to feed the girls the bug meal and rushes to their rescue, telling Pecorine not to feed such things to little kids and questioning why she is dressed as a waitress. Pecorine tells her she is a waitress. While they are talking, Kokoro fidgets with the application behind Carol, which irritates her. She then remembers that she intended to talk to them about their guild and is about to speak when suddenly a huge and hideous-looking man kicks the door open. He claims he heard the restaurant serves meals with bugs in them. Hikachi attempts to defend the owner, but before his words can land, Barai's fist connects with his face, sending him flying. Kokoro's application form falls from her hands and the man steps on it. Barai finds a comfortable spot and asks to be served. Everyone is scared and the owner confronts him, but Barai retaliates by breaking the owner's hand, making him curse. Pecorine thinks Barai is grumpy due to hunger, and Barai threatens to shut down the restaurant if he doesn't like their meal. Determined to impress him, Pecorine decides to show off her cooking skills. After all the mixing and stirring, with her brain as a recipe book, she whips up something for Barai. Everyone holds their breath as Barai prepares to taste it. He tells him that he is a foodie, which is pretty obvious by the way, and thinks to himself that if he can shut down the place with a harsh critique, he'll make a fortune from its rival. While he deliberates on what to try first, Carol assesses the situation and spots a bowl of lemon nearby. She stops him from taking a bite, declaring that the dish isn't complete, and pours the lemon over the food, claiming it will make him hear the chorus of angels. The dish radiates glory, yet to maintain his tough guy image, Barai comments that it looks disgusting. However, as he takes the first bite, he genuinely hears angels singing. The food is so delicious that he cannot control himself and devours it as if he has only seconds to live. Bro is intoxicated by the flavors, and as the angel voices grow louder, he tries to deny the food's greatness, but experiences an out-of-body moment. He is on cloud 9 and can't help but finally admit that the food is good. Everyone is excited by this, but Barai immediately changes his mind and smashes a plate. He remains intent on shutting down the place. Pecorine, frustrated, grabs his arm and says that people who waste food should be punished. With that, she magically beams him out of the restaurant. Everyone cheers for her, and Pecorine feels proud of herself. The restaurant owner now has to repair the door that was destroyed earlier, while Carol decides to join their guild under the pretense that they cannot be trusted to handle things on their own. The next day, Kokoro submits the guild application, and it gets approved. Ifty, they become the Gourmet Guild, with the objective of investigating and exploring every type of cuisine and ingredient in the world while enjoying meals together. They arrive at their new house, and as soon as they open the door, they are greeted with dust. A bug crawls onto Carol, causing her to scream. Everyone gathers around, and Carol expresses her dislike for the place. Karin apologizes, explaining that they are currently short on guild houses to lend out. Carl refuses to accept the house. She believes that it's crawling with reptiles. Karin tells her not to worry, but mumbles that there may just be ghosts around. Carol crashes out, and Pecorine tells her not to Kokoro, then asks Karin if they can do a little work to make the house more livable, and Karin agrees. Carol takes charge of the cleanup, declaring that it will be thorough and that they shouldn't leave behind a single speck of dust. They get down to business, wiping the floor, cleaning the cupboard, and moving things out of the house. Carol assigns another task to Kokoro while she focuses on cleaning the interior. After moving everything outside, Pecorine suddenly screams, drawing everyone's attention. When asked what the issue is, she responds that the house lacks a very important item, a table for them to eat at. Carol tells her to go buy one, and Pecorine gets up in her face asking what the goal of the Gourmet Guild is. When Carol gets it wrong, Pecorine corrects her, saying it is for the 4 of them to enjoy meals together, and that their table is too important to be chosen randomly. Pecorine then declares she will make the table herself. She starts from scratch by trying to cut down a tree, and Carol is speechless. Kokoro excuses herself to go get something something they need and tells Carol to take care of the cleaning while she is away. The house is a real mess, and Carol checks to see if there are any snakes or bugs or ghosts. Then she begins the serious cleanup. Meanwhile, Kokoro finds a really cute plate that she's considering buying, and Saren approaches her. Saren, the owner of the items for sale, asks if Kokoro is interested in the plate. Kokoro agrees but mentions that it is above her budget. Saren decides to give her a deal. Kokoro thanks her and introduces herself, and Saren does the same. Saren is the manager of Serendia Orphanage, and Kokoro admires her. Saren then asks if Kokoro needs anything else. Just then, they hear Suzume screaming as she tries to control the donkey strapped to her cart. When it finally stops, Suzume apologizes to Saren, but Saren responds that she is relieved Suzume is not hurt and that the goods are safe. Kokoro introduces herself to Suzume, who is Saren's maid. Saren asks Suzume to help carry Kokoro's things since she won't be able to manage on her own despite Kokoro's refusal. Saren insists. Back at the Gourmet Guild, Carol finishes cleaning the bathroom, leaving it sparkling. When she steps out, she sees Pecorine still working hard and knows it will take a while. Meanwhile, Suzume helps carry Kokoro's luggage and they share information about themselves along the way. Suzume tells Kokoro that Saren abandoned her high status as the vice captain of the Palace Knights to help children who had no families or were separated from their parents by starting her orphanage. Kokoro can tell that Suzume and Saren have a good relationship. She expresses her hope that one day she will have a similar connection with Yuki. Eventually, they realize they are lost when they find themselves in a forest, both feeling scared. Kokoro uses the opportunity to feed the donkey while Suzume stands on the edge, feeling paranoid. Suddenly, a noise startles both Suzume and the donkey, causing them to flee, but Suzume trips and falls. When Kokoro goes to help her, they realize the donkey has escaped. Suddenly, they hear rustling in the bushes and go to investigate. Kokoro, thinking it's the donkey, throws a rope to capture it, only to discover it is a strange creature. They are surprised to learn that she can speak as well. They wonder what race she is, and the creature, Lima, is upset that they think she is a monster, insisting that a monster cannot be as cute as she is. Lima mentions that she is wearing the latest fashion and thought that because of that, she wouldn't be mistaken for an animal. When she starts sulking, Kokoro compliments her ribbon, which makes her feel happy again. Kokoro apologizes for the misunderstanding, and they introduce themselves. Lima reveals that she works at a farm just beyond the forest called Elizabeth Park. She asks what Kokoro and Suzume are doing in the forest, and they explain their cart situation. Lima offers to help pull their cart, saying she is pretty strong. They agree and continue their journey. Back at the Gourmet Guild, Carol stacks chairs and asks Yuki to help her clean the top window. He agrees and she supports the chair while he cleans. While they are talking, a bug climbs up Carol's leg, causing her to let go of the chair, and Yuki falls. He passes out and finds himself meeting Amith in the void. Amith commends him for what he has accomplished so far and reveals that the girls he started his guild with are connected to the mysteries of this world. They all have their own missions, and Carol particularly is in a difficult position. She tells him to be careful, as the enemy is aware of his existence. She adds that the bonds he forms with the girls moving forward will help him grow, and when the time comes, she will assist him just as she did in the past. Amith wishes him luck, and Yuki wakes up to find Carol staring down at him. She asks how he feels, and he simply stares back at her, recalling what Amith said about Carol. He then shows her that he is okay. Just then, Pecorine calls for them from outside. She has finished the table, and they are amazed by her work. Carol compliments her on it, while Yuki can only think about resting. They all agree that the table looks nice, and Pecorine suggests they carry it into the house. However, when they try to bring it in, they find it too big to fit through the door no matter how they turn it. Pecorine realizes they're stuck, but Yuki tells her not to worry. She then decides to split the table in two and work on it again. Meanwhile, Kokoro and the girls encounter some bandits. Lima is scared. They attack her, and she struggles to break free. One of the men calls her a donkey, which angers her. She picks up a sword and absolutely destroys them. Afterward, she enjoys a little snack, which transforms her into a girl, surprising the others. After finishing the work on the house, Carol realizes that Kokoro has not returned yet. Worried, she suggests they should go check on her, but just then, Kokoro arrives. She gives Yuki a rubber duck as a gift, and he likes it. Carol then says they should take a look inside. Kokoro is amazed, and Carol flatters herself, while Pecorine shows off the table she made. Suzume returns to Saren with Lima shortly after. Pecorine prepares dinner, and everyone is busy with their own thing. They gather for dinner, and Carol jokes that they don't have to eat bugs. Kokoro tells them that she looks forward to working together. Pecorine encourages her not to be so formal. They express their gratitude before digging into their meal. Yuki falls sick after not drying his hair, and Kokoro has to take care of him. Pecorine serves him food and tries to feed him, but it is too hot. Carol comments that they are doing too much and he will be fine after a good night's sleep. However, when she checks on him and finds he has a real fever, she realizes he is genuinely sick. Kokoro is preparing some local medicine from her town, adding bugs to it, which Carol is against. Carol also notices Pecorine adding bugs to Yuki's porridge, justifying it by saying the bugs contain nutrients. Carol suggests they take Yuki to a hospital. They carry him in a cart into the city, while Carol tries to find the hospital using a map. After some time searching, they arrive at what they think is a hospital. Nanaka welcomes them, and they are confused about whether it is truly a hospital. Nanaka reassures them that it is, and they inform her about Yuki's condition. She takes him to be examined by Mitsuki. Carol whispers to the others that the doctor dresses weird but seems to know her stuff. Pecorine tells her not to judge people by their appearance, but Carol is still concerned about the outfit. Mitsuki then asks Yuki to remove his shirt, and they discover some marks on his body. Mitsuki and Nanaka's discussion is so subtle that the trio cannot understand what is happening. Mitsuki then instructs Nanaka to prepare for an operation. When Pecorine expresses worry, Mitsuki shuts her off, saying that she will make Yuki feel 30% better. The operating room looks more like a psychopath's basement, and Yuki is tied to the table. Meanwhile, Kokoro makes some incantations, asking Amith to grant Yuki strength. It is really not the time for that, so they stop her and throw out her tools. Pecorine tries to snap Kokoro back to reality, but she she seems stuck in her own loop. When Kokoro finally gathers herself, she apologizes, explaining that she couldn't stand by and do nothing. Pecorine assures her there is no need to worry since they are in the best clinic in Land Assault. Just then, they hear Yuki's terrified screams, and they can only wonder what he is going through behind those doors. Kokoro loses it and tries to start another incantation, but the others stop her again. Suddenly, a man runs into them and stumbles. Pecorine apologizes, and the man recognizes them. They also recognize him from the restaurant. They are shocked at how skinny Baddie has become. Pecorine asks if he has been skipping meals, but Baddie blames his situation on her. He then asks if an operation is going on, and when they confirm, he says it is his only chance to escape, or he will be trapped forever, unable to leave. He tells them that this is no hospital, it is a prison. After that, he runs away, leaving the girls confused. Now, they are really concerned about Yuki. Kokoro says that it is not too late to find another hospital, and Carol agrees. While they discuss this, they hear Baddie's cries. Moments later, he is dragged back by Eriko, who appears quite angry, stating that she doesn't have time to chase after him because she is busy searching for her soulmate. The trio seems too intimidated and hesitant to move. After the surgery, a no entry sign is placed at the door. Carol questions Nanaka about Yuki's illness while Kokoro faints. Nanaka simply tells him to leave for the day. Back home, Pecorine serves tea as they discuss the crazy events they just experienced. Pecorine suggests they eat a good meal to replenish their energy. Meanwhile, Eriko leaves to continue her search for her soulmate, recalling how he helped her when she fainted and confidently stating that they will meet again. Unknown to her, her soulmate is at her home, recovering from a traumatic event. A voice interrupts her thoughts, offering a free fortune telling. Eriko decides to take a chance. Shinobu welcomes her and activates her father, who immediately invites Eriko to share tea with him. Eriko decides that ending him would be better, but the skull apologizes. Eriko feels being there is a waste of time, but Shinobu's father tells her he knows she is searching for her soulmate and assures her that she will see him soon. On her way home, Eriko is excited, but none of the guys she encounters turn out to be her soulmate, and she even steals treasures from one. As she arrives home, Eriko is somewhat disappointed that she could not find him. As she passes by his room, she suddenly decides to check inside. Yuki opens his eyes to see a scary figure staring down at him, and he is terrified. It's giving sleep paralysis demon. The next morning, as the trio gathers for breakfast, they once again express their worries for Yuki and decide to check on him after their meal. Pecorine imagines that Yuki is already out of bed and demanding breakfast. In reality, however, Yuki is tied up and terrified as Eriko tries to force feed him, talking about some secret ingredient that is her love for him. Bro is understandably creeped out. Pecorine and the others rush to the guild. Pecorine knows something is sus about the hospital. When they arrive, they find mobs gathered outside, with one of the men demanding the return of his stolen treasure. Mitsuki and Nanaka are confused and don't understand what the men are talking about. Eriko then throws her weapon out of the window, saying that they are too loud and are preventing her beloved from resting in comfort. When she jumps down, Mitsuki asks whether she knows the mob, but she doesn't respond. Instead, she tells the mob that they are friends and should not fight each other. This only angers them further, and they attempt to attack, but Eriko defeats them with a single blow. Mitsuki and Nanaka also display their skills. The men recognize them as members of the Twilight Caravan Guild. Realizing they can't leave the men outside, Mitsuki suggests bringing them in for treatment since they could die without proper care. The men also beg to be healed. Mitsuki then makes a comment about the men being their new guinea pigs. After witnessing all of this, the trio plots to rescue Yuki. While the Twilight Guild members have their hands full, the trio sneaks in to carry out their mission. Unfortunately for them, Eriko is with Yuki, making it impossible to break him out. They observe Eriko offering Yuki a cursed engagement ring, saying that couples who exchange the ring are blessed by its curse, allowing them to stay together forever. Yuki looks frightened, and they realize they need to help him soon. They decide to create a distraction that will attract Eriko's attention. While Eriko is still being creepy, a terrible stench wafts into the room, stopping her from giving Yuki the ring. Kokoro is in another room conducting her incantations, and Eriko assumes that either Nanaka or Mitsuki is responsible for the smell. Meanwhile, Nanaka and Mitsuki are busy assisting their patients, who are reacting poorly to their medicine. With no choice, Eriko decides to investigate the source of the odor, telling Yuki to rest. As soon as she leaves, Pecorine and Carol come to Yuki's rescue. While Eriko is heading to check the smell, Kokoro makes her escape through the window. However, as they attempt to leave, they hear Mitsuki coming up the stairs, and they cannot go back because Eriko is upstairs. They find themselves in a bind, with no excuse for being with a patient. Yuki points out a window, and Carol decides to pretend to be sick to stall Mitsuki, while Pecorine and Yuki make their escape. Eriko returns to Yuki's room, only to discover that he has fled. Pecorine successfully pushes Yuki out the window, and he lands on a blanket that Kokoro magically set up for his fall. Meanwhile, Mitsuku examines Carol and decides to admit her as a patient. Pecorine worries about Carol, but Carol reassures her that she is okay, so Pecorine leaves too. Eriko sees Mitsuki, who informs her that Carol is now their new patient, despite Carol's plea of feeling better. Kokoro and Pecorine take Yuki to another doctor, who tells them that he will be fine with a few days of rest, saying Mitsuki did a good job on him. On their way home, they are not worried about Carol since the doctor said Mitsuki is skilled at her job. Carol makes it back home, and the others welcome her. But Carol looks like she has just seen the unreleased Powerpuff Girls live-action movie, and is next level traumatized. Without hesitation, she heads to bed. As the next morning arrives, everyone wakes up to see Pecorine active and fired up. She has even made breakfast. Pecorine says that since Carol has returned from the clinic, she feels it's about time they resume their adventures as the Gourmet Guild. The word clinic triggers Carol. She seems like she survived war, and considering the clinic, the feeling is justified. Pecorine brings forth a mission flyer, which is recruiting people to help harvest spices at Targum Village. They'll get paid daily and given spices, and Pecorine is most excited. However, Carol says she isn't cut out for physical labor, as her magic does virtually everything. She decides to opt out of the mission, but this is when Pecorine pulls the pity card, getting all emotional. Carol Carol doesn't want to be that guy, and seeing as she's the only one against the mission, she has no choice but to accept. Their journey starts in earnest, and Carol joins in, although she realizes Pecorine pulled a fake tears stunt on her. Yuki and Kokoro act normally throughout the journey, sightseeing and having fun, unlike Pecorine, who clearly is doing too much. But I mean, it's Pecorine, she's as active as a 7-year-old with the super soldier serum. A man walks through the woods all on his own when he has a weird feeling about the place. It is surrounded by shadow-looking beings, the type of things you find on late-night TikTok or that one Henry Danger episode. Not long after he starts feeling suspicious, he comes across himself, basically one of the shadows that had copied his looks. He gets adopted, not the foster situation type. Kokoro and Yuki gather sticks for fire as they've decided to take a break from their journey and set up camp. On the other hand, Carol is pushing her limits to fish and get something decent. She's not playing. The clinic arc was enough trauma. Carol isn't planning on eating bugs or any other weird and crazy delicacy. However, she doesn't seem to be having any luck, as the lake has barely anything. But hey, Kokoro and Yuki got lots of frogs and wild plants for soup. This will be like eating directly from a witch's pot, and Carol is crashing out. Luckily, Pecorine arrives with actual edible things. They get into the meal preparation, and at the end of the day, everything is done and set. The meal is really enjoyable, a very big relief for Carol, who compliments the food. The fruit Pecorine brought alongside the main meal piques Kokoro's interest as she stares at it curiously. She asks Pecorine what it is, and Pecorine says barely enough, encouraging them to dig in. Everyone eats the fruit and compliments its scent as well as taste, except Kokoro, who notices a frog fall asleep after eating the fruit. Just then, Carol starts acting out of sorts, and so do Yuki and Pecorine. They're tipsy, as they go crazy for a moment before finally sleeping off. The buds wouldn't have caused that though. Only Kokoro remains. She is happy they started their guild and admits that Yuki, Pecorine, and Carol are good people as she watches them sleep. The next morning, Carol wakes up giddy, not really recalling how the previous night went. Unlike her, Pecorine is active and stretching. Kokoro offers Carol some water to wash her face, mentioning that Yuki is doing the same by the lake. As they turn to Yuki's direction, they realize he's chilling in a monster's mouth. The monster dashes away with him before any of them can react. It's almost as if Yuki has a tag on his bag saying, "Ingest me." The monster dashes through the woods with Yuki, but soon gets hit by an arrow. As the monster is taken down, Yuki gets sprung out of its mouth like a log of wood. Speaking of logs, Yuki wakes up to a log, asking about how he's feeling. He gives it a blank stare before shaking it curiously and violently. Just then, a little girl jumps out from behind the bushes asking Yuki to stop. She seems really fidgety and shy. Yuki hands her the log as they introduce themselves. Aoi, the girl, had been voice acting behind the bushes the whole time for the log, which she considers her friend as she has none. She mentions that she talks to plants and animals as she has no human friends, adding that she has always wanted a friend. The word friend is new to Yuki and he curiously repeats it. This gives Aoi the impression that Yuki is also looking for a friend. She rejoices as she believes she has found another lonely soul. She's all hyper, suggesting they form a team to create more inanimate friends, and has a whole conversation about the team name with her log. Yuki stares dumbfounded as Aoi comes up with BB Team as their name, which is basically saying bye-bye to their loneliness. She's chanting the name when Kokoro and the others catch up with Yuki. Aoi freezes as they arrive and goes back to being fidgety. Yuki introduces her, mentioning that she saved his life. Kokoro thanks her for that, but Aoi is way too shy to engage in the conversation. She resorts to using her log again. Their journey is underway as they all head to Tarkham Village. Carol calls Aoi out for walking behind, even though she's supposedly the one showing them the way to the village. But Aoi is too shy to walk near them, saying it'll be rude of her to walk closely considering she isn't friends with them. Soon, they arrive at the village. They are welcomed by Misato, the guildmaster of Forestier, the guild Aoi belongs to. Misato mentions they have another member, Hatsune, who is probably napping somewhere. She explains that the harvest has been bountiful but they're low on workforce, adding that they appreciate the help. According to her, another guild, Elizabeth Park, is also coming along. The name rings a bell to Kokoro as she remembers Lima. By this time, the Elizabeth Park members are on their way to Targham Village through the woods. The rest of the team seems exhausted by the journey, but Lima is still active and full of energy as she's eager for the harvest. Shiorin, a member of the guild, is the most exhausted, but she assures them that she's fine, adding that they have to make it to the village by the end of the day. Mahiru, another member, tells her not to push herself too much, not even to see her sister who is in Targham Village. They decide to take a break in the woods, the same place where those creepy shadows stay. They're barely rested when shadow versions of themselves approach. They're all surprised, and Lima freaks out, making an attack. But her shadow version copies the same move, using it to counter the attack. Pecorine, Yuki, Kokoro, and Carol are walking down the village, basically sightseeing, when they see a floating girl. The girl is sleeping and doesn't have control of where she's going until she crashes into a bell. The hit doesn't wake her up yet, but she eventually wakes up wondering how she got all the way there. Pecorine plainly explains that she fell from the bell, and the girl freaks out that she was flying. It seems like it's a common thing for her, but she quickly tells them not to think too much into it, introducing herself as Hatsune, the guild member Misato talked about. The Elizabeth guild members battle their doppelgangers and are winning. Shiorin points out that their shadow versions are more sloppy and are stuck repeating the same thing. Just then, a strong attack hits them, clearing away the entirety of the bushes nearby. As they're down, the cause of the attack, a lady walks into the scene. She introduces herself as Christina, and she is basically looking for good fights. She asks the Elizabeth members to face her. Hatsune is excited to learn that Pecorine and the others will be joining the harvest. She says the harvest would be fun, as she'll get to see her sister, Shiorin, too. Hatsune goes ahead to tell them about Shiorin, mentioning that she's recovering from a sickness. Shiorin is physically weak, but loves books, which is why she stays up at night to read them. Hatsune is really excited to give Shiorin a new book she bought for her, and can't wait to see how she reacts when she sees it. Shiorin survived Christina's attack but has been separated from the rest of the guild and is weak. Approaching her is her shadow version, and and she can do nothing about that. A dark shadow folds over them both, and they disappear. Shiori is in a dark underworld. As she floats there unconsciously, she has flashbacks of her time with her sister Hatsune. They had traded gifts. Shiorin gave Hatsune the pillow she sleeps with even till the present day, and Hatsune gave Shiori a book. The book has many amazing things, and Shiorin would like to travel around to see them. Hatsune reassures her sister that they will indeed be able to go, adding that by that time, Shiori will be fully healed. She promises that she will fly Shiori to those places if necessary. Suddenly, Shiori's illness worsens, abruptly ending their fun time together. Hatsune becomes very worried about her sister, while Shiori feels guilty for causing Hatsune to worry so much. It's time for the harvest, and they're all up and ready, with Pecorine firing them up like they're about to go to war. They begin harvesting and are having fun while at it. The Forestier Guild joins them soon, exchanging pleasantries, except for Aoi, who is, as usual, hiding behind Misato. When asked why she didn't fly there, Hatsune mentions that using her superpower, flying, makes her sleepy, and considering the harvest is important, she doesn't want to use her powers so she'll stay active and awake. This is where they all stop her. Because what do you mean superpowers? They're out here with swords and magic and all that, whereas Hatsune is basically Supergirl. Hatsune tries to tell them to forget she ever mentioned it, but this is really a big deal. Seeing anyone with superpowers is rare, and Kokoro even feels like it's a miracle. Misato mentions that it's too late for Hatsune to try hiding it, and since she feels the Gourmet Guild members are good guys, she asks them to keep it a secret. Just then, an alarm is raised, and they all go to check out what the issue is. The Elizabeth Guild members have arrived in the village, but they're all worn out as a result of their earlier encounter. They explain everything that happened, how they got attacked by creatures that looked identical to them, and how a strange lady joined the fight, like all those WWE mid-fight cameos nobody asked for. Hatsune notices Shiori isn't with them, goes into panic, asking where she is. Mahiru apologizes, mentioning that they got separated. Lima did the most, fighting with all her might until she couldn't anymore. She also carried them all the way to the village. Kokoro immediately goes to Lima's aid, healing her wounds. When Lima asks, Kokoro says she's in the village to help with the harvest. Some villagers start talking about the rumors, which, following the present circumstances, are most likely true. People have made complaints about being attacked in the forest by things that look like them, and some have even gone missing. Hatsune, on hearing this, hurries to Lima and takes a peek into her mind to see all that happened. She is really worried about Shiori. Christina is aura farming in the wrecked bushes while still taking down more shadows. She recognizes what they are and knows who sent them, Kokoro's master. Christina wonders what her game plan is, but all the same, is happy as she'll have what to satisfy her battle hunger. The shadows are still in large numbers, and Shiori is now one of them. Hatsune is determined to search for her sister, but Misato tries to stop her, insisting that she can't go alone. Lima offers to join, feeling compelled to help find Shiori, who had been really excited to meet her sister. Suddenly, Yuki speaks up, volunteering to accompany them, and emphasizes that Team BB doesn't abandon those in need. His fellow BB teammate, Aoi, gathers the courage to join as well. The group grows larger as Pecorine and Kokoro decide to join them too. However, Carol chooses to leave the scene. Meanwhile, Charlie and Akachi are having the time of their lives. They wonder if the harvest has begun and can't wait to eat the dishes Pecorine makes with the spices when she's back. From their view, they admire the Landasol castle. Inside the castle, the man who was adopted in the woods earlier appears. He is possessed by the shadow and, hence, is controlled by Carol's master. She absorbs him. The team in search of Shiori heads out into the forest. As they tread down the road, Aoi mentions that there's something strange about the forest. Hatsune flies into the sky for a quick top-view inspection of the forest, while Pecorine and the others try to cover up her abilities, telling Lima it's magic. I mean, what else could it be? Not like they're hiding the fact that she has superpowers, the literal ability to fly. Just then, an attack comes from below, knocking her out of the sky and onto the ground. She recognizes the attack, and just as she suspected, it is Shiori. Shiori steps out of the bushes, and Hatsune is relieved and excited, but just for a brief moment. Shiori isn't herself. She's possessed by the shadow. She attacks Hatsune, who is able to block the massive attack and remain unharmed. I wish I could say the same about the bushes. Nature. By the time the rest of the team arrives, Shiori is gone, leaving Hatsune heartbroken. They grasp the situation and try to encourage Hatsune, urging her to continue the search with them and find out what's going on. Hatsune isn't giving up and is resolved to find Shiori again to see for herself. Carol isolates herself, brooding in the Piccolo cliff edge pose. She feels bad that her master is the center shadow. She is supposed to spy on Pecorine and had no idea the shadows would be brought into this. Carol knows the gravity of the situation, as the whole village could suffer the same fate as Shiori. Her session is interrupted by Pecorine, who has been searching for her. Pecorine was worried about how Carol left and wondered if she was okay. Carol isn't one for showing a soft side, hence she plays tough, saying it's nothing. She isn't good at pretending though. Pecorine asks her to come along and join others in the search for Shiori, but just then, they hear screams from the village. Pecorine hurries down there, although Carol would rather she weren't so rash. The shadows have invaded the village, and the villagers flee for their lives. Pecorine arrives at the scene and springs into action. Shiori is at the center of it all, almost like a commander. The search team realize the village is under attack and is about to head back when Christina encounters them. As usual, she is there for a fight, and Lima alerts everyone to be on guard, as it was Christina who attacked the Elizabeth Guild earlier. Kokoro asks if Christina knows what's going on, but Christina would rather they discuss with their swords. She starts attacking them and clearly is dominating the fight. She gets a clean hit on Yuki, who, although Kokoro casts a quick protection spell, passes out. Yuki meets Ameth in his subconscious and is worried about where the others are until she explains to him. He's basically in a dream, meaning the others are still getting jumped by Christina. Yuki requests to be sent back immediately, as if there's anything he can do to change the fact that they're outmatched. Ameth sees Christina as a really big deal, mentioning that she didn't expect to see her so soon and that she has seen her a bunch of times, although she feels Christina might not remember it. Ameth can't interfere in the real-world activities, just like the the Watcher or the Eternals. She says only Yuki can save the other by unleashing his Princess Night power, a power he once used before he lost his memories. She asks him to remember his adventures, and almost like flicking a switch, Yuki has quick flashbacks. Back to the beatdown, Christina has them all worked up. The difference in strength is clear, and just when it seems like it's all decided, Yuki gets up. He unleashes his power, and it energizes his team, or rather, enhances. Christina recognizes the power, but is given little time to digest the situation as the whole team locks in and attacks. Lima transforms into her human form and starts taking heavy swings, fast enough to cut a bit of Christina's hair. Their attacks are massive, but they haven't overpowered Christina. It's only becoming more of a fight for her. Yuki tries attacking, but he isn't as strong as the others, as Christina blocks his attack with ease. She assesses the fact that Yuki's strength remains the same, whereas his teammates are all amped. Suspecting that it isn't magic, she kicks the daylights out of him. Christina is impressed and asks Yuki for his name. She takes her leave after he tells her and admits she had a great time. Just before leaving completely, she tells Hatsune that Shiori has been swallowed by a shadow. If she's still herself, then there's still a chance of getting her back. The fight back home is intense and Pecorine is getting exhausted. Carol watches from a distance, almost as if contemplating whether or not to intervene. She remembers her mission, but then recalls her earlier moment with Pecorine. Pecorine is completely worn out because she's hungry, but the shadows are still advancing in numbers. Just then, Carol intervenes, taking down multiples of them. With the assist, Pecorine and Carol clear out the shadows. Hatsune arrives just in time to meet Shiori, and immediately gets into her mind. The rest of the search team arrives at the village as well. Shiori is drowning in the dark underworld when Hatsune arrives there to pull her up. She urges Shiori to come along with her, but Shiori refuses as she doesn't want to be a burden. Hatsune stops her right there, pointing out that she isn't a burden. She mentions that Shiori has always been cheering her up and reminds her that she promised to fly her away. As this moment gets emotional, a giant shadow emerges and Hatsune can't face it as she has used up her powers. Just then, Shiori steps up. She thanks Hatsune for always protecting her and expresses her wish to be able to protect Hatsune as well. That being said, she draws her bow against the shadow, and just like getting assisted in cutting a birthday cake, Hatsune joins hands with her and they take a shot at the shadow. The attack is massive, but the shadow has some resistance. Not until Shiori yells at the top of her voice, commanding the shadow out of her body. In the real world, the shadow emerges from Shiori's body, and Carol and Pecorine pull a flashy tag team finish. After this, Pecorine is out of strength, but she gets caught just as she's about to go down by Carol. Checking up on Shiori, they're relieved that she's back to normal, or is she? Hatsune is exhausted and deep in sleep, which isn't even a surprise. The Gourmet Guild members are in a planting session, and Carol seems to be proficient in this, giving orders like a taskmaster. Kokoro wonders how her elder is doing, as she's doing pretty well herself, from the missions they've completed as a guild to the bond she has with her fellow guild members. They take a break from work and have some rice cakes while Pecorine briefs them about the farm they're planting on. The site is the main producer of Landasol's rice, known as Princess Rice, named after the princess who is passionate about it. However, wild animals have been besieging the area, making the farmers' efforts to protect their crops ineffective. For this reason, they're helping the farmer out, and the reward is the Princess Rice. Pecorine is super excited about this, but Carol would rather they take quests with actual rewards instead of just food-related things all the time. Kokoro mentions that a quest to help a farmer is a good thing, and plus Yuki likes it, so it's fine by her. Just as Carol is talking, Pecorine stuffs food in her mouth. The food is nice, and Carol compliments Pecorine, saying the only thing she's good at is cooking, which is more like a diss mixed with a compliment. Carol's mood drops as she recalls her mission report on Targum Village to her master, who asks her to keep an eye on Yuki as well, and report to her alone. Watching them goof around, she wonders if there's any point to observing them at all. At the Adventurers Guild, the Gourmet Guild members search for their next quest on the bulletin board. Pecorine keeps on choosing the food-related quests, and Carol wastes no time in disagreeing. There is a weird-looking flyer pasted on the board. The writing on it requests a trainer to train the clients about working as a guild. The reward promises to give a lot of wonderful things, like they literally wrote that on the paper. According to Karin, the quest isn't officially approved, and they've taken it down the board a couple of times, but it keeps being replaced. That being said, they let it go and take their leave. As they step out, a group of kids, being all pitiful behind them, which gets their attention. Karin feels it's just kids practicing their school play or something, and urges them to leave it be. They're about to continue on their path when the kids go ahead of them and pull the same pity stunt in front this time. Just then, the act switches up, and one of the kids, Misogi, asks if they're interested in the unofficial quest, which turns out the kids had put up. They all settle down to discuss it. The kids created a guild called the Little Lyrical and need a teacher to teach them about what real guilds do. Carol refers to the group as kids pretending to be a guild, but Misogi corrects her, saying that they are not just pretending. Carol then asks why they want to be a guild, and Keoka, one of the children, responds that they want to protect the peace of Landasol. Compared to the Gourmet Guild's reasons for doing what they do, which are basically for rewards and a bunch of other things that are definitely not about peace, it's a pretty noble reason. They finally agree to teach them, and the kids are excited. That night, Carol racks her brain on what paths to venture on during the quest, which is teaching the Little Lyrical how to be a guild. She's indecisive and frustrated, likening the situation to having to choose a field trip location, but Kokoro says she'd make a great teacher. Carol says she can't stand kids. Relatable, and Kokoro points out that she has always been kind to her. Carol points out that it's because Kokoro is more mature than most grown-ups. Meanwhile, Pecorine is building something. They wonder what it is, but she says they'll understand it the next day. Yuki is on his own business too, making the treasure which they'll use for the quest. They all go to check, and it's really ugly as well as so disturbing that they might not sleep. The next day, the Little Lyrical members are all lined up and ready to move. Their objective is to get the treasure as directed by the map, and Yuki is supposed to lead them. The kids leave with Yuki. They'll be fine as long as they follow the map. The others are worried and follow them around, stalking their progress. There's some confusion on what direction to follow, and the kids kids turn to Yuki to make the call, and he has a little moment of reasoning before choosing the very wrong route. He and the kids embark on it nonetheless. Pecorine and the others can only painfully watch from their hideout. They encounter a bunch of spiders on this route and make a fuss about it. They're into this like a full-blown battle, and while this is going on, Pecorine and the others call Yuki's attention, trying to point him in the right direction. After the little lyrical members vanquish their mighty enemy, spiders by the way, Yuki looks at the map and still leads them in the wrong direction. Talk about the Zoral illness. This is really frustrating for Pecorine and the others, and Pecorine decides to make use of her final resort, a supposedly monster costume which she had been making the previous night. She gets on their path and tries to scare them off it. The kids freak out at first, but then are able to muster enough courage and fight back. They work together and take down the monster while Pecorine suffers inside. They keep going down the dangerous path until they encounter a real monster. Yuki tries to defend them, but as expected the monster gets him easily. The kids muster up the courage to free their master, but before they can actually do anything, Carol intervenes and takes down the monster from a distance. The kids rejoice, feeling like they, together with Yuki, took down the monster. This is exhausting for Kokoro and Carol, who keep on helping from behind the scenes while the kids and Yuki are carefree, unaware of the dangers they've encountered. Just then, Pecorine turns up in her damaged bird costume, which startles Carol and Kokoro. She mentions that Yuki and the kids are headed for a giant bird's nest. Before they can do anything about this information, the bird flies by and Yuki is already in its mouth. The kids go after the bird and into its nest to defeat it and rescue Yuki, but they're no match for it. By the time Pecorine and the others arrive, the bird has them unconscious and stashed in its nest. They scramble, get it, as the bird tries to attack them. The bird has been the one terrorizing the rice farms, which is why the farmer wasn't able to do anything about it. Carol and Kokoro are too exhausted to fight it, as well as Pecorine, who is hungry. But just then, she notices the children's food pack lying on the ground. Pecorine is able to get to the food, eat, and recharge. She emerges at optimum strength, fed and fired up, and attacks the bird, finishing it off with a single swing. The kids wake up to see the defeated bird and somehow feel it's their doing. As they rejoice, the Gourmet Guild members commend them for their efforts and performance. They waste no time in requesting for their treasure, which catches the Gourmet Guild members by surprise. Pecorine thinks fast, which isn't her strongest suit, and offers them one of the bird's giant eggs. She means for them to eat it, but the egg surprisingly hatches. It turns out well, all the same, as the chick is cute and the kids like it. Kyoka meets them, away from the other little lyrical members who are still rejoicing. She knows everything was an act and thanks them dearly regardless. She promises not to tell the others and goes ahead to thank Yuki specifically, as she feels he pretended to be caught by the bird. No, he wasn't pretending. The dude could have been eaten. They're back to planning rice, although Carol still wants a quest with good rewards. She gives the condition that she'll be the first to eat it when it's all grown and harvested. Meanwhile, little lyrical members are playing around the area with their new pet. The Gourmet Guild members are back in Landasol, and Kokoro is in line for a lottery. It gets to her turn, and after several trials, she hits the jackpot on her last turn. Meanwhile, Carol has gotten attached to the rice seedlings, working pretty hard on the farm. Her tummy rumbles, which is Pecorine's thing, signifying she has to call it a day and get something to eat. As she arrives home, she sees the others trying out a bunch of new and fancy things. Pecorine excitedly explains that Kokoro won a lottery, and adds that they're going to a beach. Yuki sits in his room remembering a certain structure he saw while going to Targum village. His thoughts are interrupted when Kokoro knocks on his door. She had come to show Yuki her beach attire and to possibly get some feedback on it, as only his opinion would matter. Yuki is positive about it, and this is a relief to Kokoro. She also practices swimming motions from a guidebook she got, asking Yuki to observe if she's doing it right. He remains silent but is optimistic about it, joining her to practice together. They arrive at the beach the next day, and as usual, Pecorine is the most energetic, forcing Carol out of hiding. Carol is shy and can't believe she's on a beach with the same people she's supposed to spy on. They have fun playing in the water, and although Carol would rather maintain her cool, just chilling, it isn't an option when you're friends with Pecorine. After a while of rigorous activities owing to Pecorine's energeticness, she and Carol arrive ashore, and unlike usual, she is fatigued. Kokoro points out how unusual it is, and Pecorine reveals that her amour grants her all sorts of benefits. Without it, she's just like every other ordinary person. In exchange for the benefits, Pecorine gets hungry every time she uses it. Carol wonders if Pecorine should really be telling them her secret, and Pecorine simply doesn't mind as they're her friends. Just then, Suzume gets dragged by holding onto her speeding donkey. They are able to help stop the donkey, and Suzume is grateful. Since Suzume and Kokoro have met before, Suzume introduces herself to the rest of the team, and they do the same. They're curious about what Suzume is transporting, and she explains that they've started a beachside snack hut. Suzume takes them there where they meet Saren. The place looks decent, and they're allowed the opportunity to choose from the menu. Pecorine orders a whole bunch, which is only fair considering they won a lottery. As they dig mercilessly into the meals, Carol observes that there's no one else in the hut, even though the meal there is nice and it's lunchtime. Saren explains that there's another snack hut on the beach, and their featured menu item drew all the customers to them, kind of like the chum bucket situation. Pecorine promises to eat at their place every day, but Carol reminds her that it will exceed the entire gourmet's budget. They wonder what the featured menu item is. The rival, Tamaki's spot, is booming and business is good. There's a whole bunch of people lined up for the featured menu item, Taiyaki. The Gourmet Guild members can see how awesome the place is, and Saren admits that the meal is tasty. Almost as a consolation to Saren, Carol points out that the meal doesn't match the weather, but just then, there's a voice from behind them. It is a lady who goes by Akino. Akino is the president of the Mercurius Foundation, or whatever gives her enough audacity to call them novices. She says, business opportunities should be grasped in ways that others won't think about. She finds Carol's belief in the weather's influence on a meal to be nonsensical. She'd rather have a warm meal when the weather is hot and a cold meal when the weather is cold. She's getting on nerves in a polite way. When she's done with all she has to say, she walks up and reminds Saren of the offer to work for her. But Saren is resolute, stating that she has no intentions of doing that. Akino points out that at the rate Saren is going, she'll go bankrupt. She's offering to be a business partner. My Fuyu, another girl from behind her, speaks up, saying that Akino recognizes Saren's talents, apologizing to Saren on behalf of Akino as she's insensitive in the way she shows it. Saren is aware of this as they've known each other since childhood. Akino loses her cool, trying to seem tough. She looks down on them and feels they can't do anything better than Tamaki's Tayaka. Back at Saren's snack hut, Carol is fuming with anger. She is determined, stating that the Gourmet Guild will figure out a feature meal that is better than Tamaki's. Saren explains that Akino isn't a bad person. She adds that she's grateful that the guild is trying to help, but she'd rather not take their vacation time from them. The guild members are happy to help and don't mind spending their time on it. After all, the guild's goals relate to the situation. They're positive it'll be fun and ask Saren to leave everything to them. They could easily just call Sanji, but okay, they all set out looking for ingredients or possibly a canned special meal they could just lazily acquire. Tamaki takes a break from work. Her relaxation gets interrupted as the girl she sits with, Yukari, chugs down a cup of booze. Yukari is already drunk and helpless. She lets loose, but Tamaki is able to contain her and then heads to the water to help her cool down her head. She tosses Yukari into the water like the Olympic hammer throw. Tamaki watches Yukari when something emerges from the water. Meanwhile, the Gourmet Guild members, together with Saren and Suzuki, are still trying to figure out what meal they'll settle for. Just then, an alarm is raised, warning the people on the beach about a kraken. The kraken has Yukari, who is too drunk to grasp the situation. The Gourmet Guild arrives and Tamaki explains the situation to them. The kraken is about to leave with Yukari when Pecorine runs into the water and holds it back. With Carol's help, she throws it to land and Saren finishes it off. Tamaki thanks them for the rescue before leaving with Yukari, who is now unconscious. They're left wondering what to do with the kraken, and then the idea kicks in. They legit turn bro into their menu feature item, and it's working, as Saren's place is now flooded with customers. Akino is impressed and says she'll start listening to novices. Saren appreciates the fact that Akino offered her a chance to work for her out of concern, but she has always wanted to be Akino's equal. At least now that could work out. They're very much on good terms. Carol has the rest of the team line up and casts a spell on them, allowing them to swim freely underwater. They're basically mermaids with legs, enjoying and admiring the underwater environment. Kokoro has always had imagination and fantasies and is thankful to Yuki because, since she met him, she has experienced more than she could ever imagine. There's a ghost craving pudding. At the Gourmet Guild, everyone except Carol is up and busy. During breakfast, which Carol is so conveniently present for, the team discusses their vacation while enjoying their monster meat sandwiches. Pecorine wants more. Honestly, she'd probably eat a kaiju if you deep fried it. Kokoro says that it feels like they are finally starting to fulfill their goal of exploring different foods, and Pecorine is excited about it. Carol is idle when Kokoro and Yuki inform her that they are taking a souvenir to the restaurant owner since Pecorine has gone to the market to shop. Carol says she's tired and will stay behind. Upon arriving at the restaurant, they find Charlie and Akachi trying to snap the restaurant owner out of a daze. The two tell Kokoro and Yuki that he just keeps saying pudding and won't even sleep. Kokoro attempts to talk to him, but he loses it and starts making pudding frantically. Yuki notices something that the others don't see. Shinobu, a fortune teller in the town, joins them and confirms that there is indeed something there. She had heard a rumor that the restaurant owner was making pudding as if possessed, so she came to see for herself. Shinobu speaks to the unseen, saying that Yuki might just end up being their savior. Miyako, the ghost, finally appears, but all she cares about is her pudding. Once she gets it, she is happy, but the restaurant owner still hasn't returned to his senses. Miyako had been whispering an order to make pudding every night, which had possessed him. Imagine haunting someone not for revenge, not for unfinished business, but for pudding. Priorities. Shinobu warns her about possessing people so casually, and Miyako accepts this advice. Meanwhile, Kokoro and Yuki are still awestruck by how cute a ghost can be. Having seen Yuki's ability to sense a ghost, Shinobu asks for a favor. She wants Yuki to accompany them to their guild house, Diabolos. Pecorine is having a great time exploring the market, while Kokoro and Yuki are following strangers and getting yelled at to be more careful with carrying the pudding. When they arrive at the guild house, Kokoro says it's weird, but Miyako loves how dark and cold it feels. Suddenly, a staff lands right in front of them. It's the other guild members, Akari and Yori. They question Shinobu about bringing outsiders in, and she explains that Yuki might be the one who can make their ambition a reality. That ambition is the complete resurrection of their queen of the denizens of darkness, the legendary vampire. An alarm immediately goes off in Kokoro's head, and she quietly suggests they leave, but it is too late. The queen speaks through her bat minions, announcing that she will grant them the honor of an audience with her. They go to meet her and see that she is sealed in a crystal. She introduces herself as Ilya Ornstein, the one who rules the darkness. Kokoro senses an enormous amount of magic within the crystal, but Ilya states that it's just a fragment of her power. Shinobu wants to introduce Yuki and Kokoro, but Ilya already knows who they are. She acknowledges that Yuki's power might be useful in her resurrection and then emerges from the crystal. Kokoro stands to protect her master. Ilya commands them to bow, reminding them of her status, but then she suddenly transforms into a child. This is what happens when she leaves her crystal prison. Miyako calls her cute, which annoys Ilya. Shinobu explains that Ilya is the queen of the demon race. Long ago, she led them in battle against the human, elf, and beast races, but she lost in the final battle of the gods and was sealed away. They unsealed her, but because she is short of magic, she reverts back to a tiny form. Ilya doesn't know what Yuki's power is, but she thinks it may be the key to restoring her magic. However, she doesn't sense any power from him. Miyako, Akari, and Yori are all disappointed. Ilya had promised to grant their wishes. Ilya is frustrated, saying she is the one who wants to cry. Suddenly, her minions attack her. Shinobu wonders what use she is if her own minions can overpower her. Ilya is still getting bullied when Yuki jumps in to help. He carries her and runs, but this only makes Ilya appear even more like a child. Just then, Yuki's power activates, and Ilya starts to grow until she becomes too heavy for him to carry. She returns to her original form. The first thing she does is teach her minions a lesson, but she does too much that Even creatures in other places notice. Look who's humble now. Ilya then orders her minions to return to the darkness. She stands tall while Akari and the others are excited about their wishes that will be granted. Ilya proclaims that nothing is impossible for her now that she is fully resurrected. As expected from a demon queen, her desire is to take over the world. She starts laughing hysterically, but then, poof, she shrinks back to her tiny form. Confusion and disappointment fill the room once again. Kokoro suggests they take this opportunity to leave, but they are interrupted by Miyako, who is furious about her pudding, now in a gruesome state. Yuki had flung the innocent pudding away while trying to act like a superhero. Miyako is livid and wants to curse him. Back at home, Carol is bored and wondering what is taking everyone so long. When she hears him at the door, she excitedly swings it open, only to be surprised to see Miyako as well. Miyako doesn't like her reaction and threatens to turn her into pudding too. Shinobu tagged along as well, and they introduce themselves. Miyako gets straight to business, ordering Carol to submit all her pudding. Carol is not happy about this situation. What if they all end up getting possessed? Kokoro offers to explain everything. Carol finally understands that Yuki is supposed to make pudding to replace the ones he ruined. Despite grasping the situation, she is still unhappy. Yuki is so laid back about it that it only frustrates her more. Kokoro reassures her that Miyako is not an evil ghost. Miyako agrees, but Carol insists that she stay away, not wanting to risk getting cursed. Meanwhile, Pecorine has just finished shopping. She overhears some citizens discussing the theater being torn down again on the orders of Princess Justiana. They express their unhappiness, as the theater is one of the few pleasures for the commoners. Charlie calls out to Pecorine he is with Akaki and the restaurant owner. They inform her about the possession situation, as well as their celebration for the boss's recovery. Akaki gets hit with a pan by a woman for shamelessly drinking during the day. She says she can't afford to let a fool like him eat for free. It turns out she is his mother, Yasuko, who owns a food stall. She has heard about Pecorine from Akachi and thanks her for helping him. Another vendor thinks that Pecorine is Yasuko's poster girl and says maybe he should get a pretty one too. Yasuko yells at him to scram, then returns to chatting with Pecorine. She mentions hearing about Pecorine's travels and thinks it's a fine way to spend her youth. She wishes Akachi could be just as resourceful. Pecorine replies that her parents taught her everything she knows. That was a subtle jab and Yasuko definitely felt it. However, she brushes it off, saying Pecorine's parents must be proud. Pecorine hopes they are. Many customers approach, mistaking Pecorine for the new poster girl, and Yasuko wishes it could always be like this. Back at home, Carol is losing her mind preparing pudding and wondering where Pecorine is. Miyako, as usual, is being a nuisance and threatens to curse Carol. Kokoro and Yuki are also working on the pudding. Kokoro says Pecorine is a good cook and could have made Miyako happy. When Yuki tastes his pudding, he finds it utterly disgusting. So does Miyako. This isn't pudding, this is a war crime in a bowl. Miyako is horrified, even thinking he is trying to unalive her. Shinobu reminds her that she is already dead though. Frustrated with how useless they all are, Miyako wants to turn them into pudding and eat them. Kokoro suggests waiting because one of their guildmates is an excellent cook, but Miyako is not having it. Carol continues to panic. At the market, Pecorine has finished helping Yasuko for the day. Yasuko even considers hiring her for real, and when Ikaki tries to intervene, she tells him to do better at his job. Yasuko gives Pecorine some ingredients as a thank you, and they all send her off like a hero. By the time Pecorine gets home, Miyako has already turned her guildmates into pudding and is about to start on Carol. Pecorine offers to make delicious pudding for Miyako if she will turn her friends back to normal. Miyako refuses, but Pecorine entices her further, promising the best pudding, and eventually, Miyako agrees. A little later, the pudding is ready and looks scrump delicious. When Miyako tries it, she literally ascends, declaring it to be the best pudding ever. She is thrilled and turns Carol and the others back to normal, saying she has finally found her perfect pudding. Shinobu is happy for her, as now she can pass on with no regrets. Everyone is paying their respects to Miyako's journey, but Pecorine then goes ahead to announce that she used the bugs Yasuko had given her as gifts for the pudding. Miyako is disgusted and stops ascending, falling to the ground. Shinobu apologizes for all the fuss and leaves with the passed out Miyako. A shadow appears in a dark alley. A trio in a different realm see this and realize that the enemy has made a move. They decide it's time. A portal opens and two girls walk into it. Their master says it's up to them now. It's another morning at the Gourmet Guild house. Carol is in bed as usual, but this time breakfast doesn't motivate her to get out. Pecorine goes to wake her, but Carol refuses to respond to her persistent calls. Pecorine panics, thinking something must have happened to Carol. Maybe she has fallen and can't get up. Carol is surprised at such dumb idea, but before she can say jack, Pecorine bursts into the room through the window, kicking Carol's beloved stuffed animal. Carol is upset. She joins them for breakfast, but is still annoyed that Pecorine doesn't respect personal space. Pecorine thinks personal space is a meal and comments that it sounds tasty. No surprise there. Kokoro explains what personal space really means, and Pecorine apologizes, promising to be more careful. Carol then asks what will happen to her favorite stuffed animal, to which Kokoro offers to fix it. The others are impressed by her skills. Off-white after breakfast, Pecorine, Kokoro, and Yuki leave for the town while Carol stays behind, as usual. She decides to clean her room. At the market, Kokoro instructs that their plan is to look for a material that matches the stuffed animal's color first. She comes across a trader who can't find a customer's shoes. The woman doesn't even know who made them because she doesn't know how to. It doesn't seem weird to Kokoro, so she walks past them. After searching for a while, they decide to split up for better efficiency. Kokoro is worried that Yuki might get lost, but he reassures her that he'll be okay. While searching alone, Yuki hears a commotion and recognizes the smoke. He immediately intervenes to save a man from the shadow, but it overpowers him and slams him against a wall. Just as Yuki is about to be possessed, a girl interrupts and defeats the shadow. Yuki is about to thank her. She suddenly says she missed him and refers to him as her younger brother. She bombards him with questions, checking if he's alright and telling him she's there for him. This girl is Shizuru. A younger girl named Rhino aggressively interrupts, saying that Shizuru shouldn't be there since they were ordered to just watch from a distance. Rhino pushes Shizuru away away while she yells to Yuki that she will watch over him no matter what happens. Yuki is left feeling confused. Rino is pissed at Shizuru for getting a head start on her, as she also has a lot to say to Yuki. She considers going to see him immediately, but Shizuru headbutts her to calm her down. Rino is dazed for a moment but soon regains her senses. Shizuru reminds her of their goal, which is to watch their brother from the sidelines. They agree and set off together. However, Rino suddenly forgets what she was doing just a minute ago. Meanwhile, Kokoro still can't find any material. She spots a beautiful butterfly and decides to follow it, but it suddenly disappears from sight. Carol, having finished cleaning her room, decides to report to her master. On her way, she sees some pretty flowers and decides to pick a few for her master, who spends all her time inside the castle. Carol hopes the flowers will make her master happy. Shizuru has just defeated another shadow and reports to her master about the shadows that are now appearing in town. She sends the coordinates of their locations. Her master is glad they took action early and thanks Shizuru for the coordinates, but also cautions Shizuru to stay alert, as there are more shadows than she initially realized. Quencher, Kokoro, and Pecorine meet up with Yuki, but none of them has been able to find any materials. Pecorine suggests that their last resort will be to become apprentices to a dyer. Kokoro believes that Pecorine could definitely pull that off, but she proposes that they keep searching a little longer for Carol's sake. Both Yuki and Pecorine agree. Now, excited, Carol arrives at the castle only to find an empty room. She calls out, and her master responds from a hidden room, inviting her in through a magic door. Inside, her master gives a creepy-looking mask to one of the shadows. The mask glows and the shadow appears possessed for a moment before returning to normal. Carol's master then commands the shadow to go fetch more souls. As the shadow passes by Carol, the flowers she picked wilt and die. Her master asks what those filths are, asking Carol to throw them away as they are not allowed in the sacred place. Back at the market, Yuki and Kokoro stop for a quick snack. Yuki enjoys so much that he gets food on the corners of his mouth, and Kokoro has to help him clean up. His clothes are also stained, so she goes to soak her handkerchief in some water. As she walks, an arrow narrowly misses her foot. She looks around but sees no one nearby. Attached to the arrow is a note that reads, "You're too close." She looks behind her and finds Rino being creepy. Kokoro tries to run, but Rino stops her. She questions who Kokoro is to her brother, and Kokoro throws a question back, asking who she is. This pisses Rino off. Kokoro apologizes and introduces herself first, mentioning that she serves Yuki by order of the great lady Ameth. Rino had mistaken her to be his girlfriend. Shizuru approaches, asking what the matter is. Rino starts rambling about a strange girl being close to their brother, and Shizuru has to headbutt her again to set her straight. Shizuru apologizes to Kokoro on behalf of Rino and then introduces herself and Rino to her. Kokoro expresses surprise that Yuki has sisters. Just as Shizuru is about to explain their relationship, she gets distracted by Rino and suddenly notices that Yuki is missing. Seeing the state of his barely eaten hot dog, the girls assume the shadows must have captured him. With people going missing in Landasol, they're concerned about Yuki's safety. Shizuru suggests they split up to search for him. Kokoro comes across Pecorine snacking and fills her in on the new development. As they stand there, worried and confused without any leads, they overhear two passersby lamenting the fate of a boy who got caught by some dicey folks. They approach the men and ask for more information. Initially, the men try to brush them off, but Kokoro insists, declaring that Yuki is very important to her and that she will save him no matter what. The men, taken aback, reluctantly comply. Mr. Kokoro and Pecorine arrive at a shady-looking den. They burst in and are ready to rescue Yuki, only to find Charlie there. He explains that he saw a cute girl and couldn't resist making a pass, which led to the situation. Suddenly, the leader of the group is pulled in, and it turns out to be a food critic. He starts making threats but quickly realizes who they are and immediately escorts them out, apologizing to them. Charlie thanks the girls tearfully for their help. Meanwhile, Shizuru and Rino are battling more shadows, still worried about Yuki's whereabouts. Just then, Kokoro and Pecorine find them. Kokoro introduces Pecorine to Shizuru, who thanks them both for searching for Yuki. They still have no clues, so Pecorine suggests they post a search request. They head to the guild to post the request. Karen sees them and asks what's going on, and they inform her that Yuki is missing. Karen reveals that Yuki was at the guild earlier, and just then he returns. He submits the material he collected to Karina, who confirms it's a perfect rainbow silkworm, completing his quest. Kokoro is surprised that he ventured out alone, but she is relieved that Yuki is okay. While helping Kokoro fix the stuffed animal, Yuki explains how he ended up missing. He saw Eriko and tried to dodge her, then noticed a quest that would help him gather the material. There was no time, so he decided to undertake it alone. He almost got eaten by a creature but managed to escape. Pecorine thanks him, as now they can fix Carol's stuffed animal. Meanwhile, Shizuru and Rino watch from a distance. Kokoro wishes to thank them, but they have already left. Carol returns home, looking dejected. She had noticed that the shadow she saw was different from the one she had encountered before, and begins to question whether she should continue what she's doing. Just before she enters the house, she takes a deep breath and bursts in, excitedly announcing her return and her hunger, only to find the house empty. Carol is disappointed, then she suddenly hears them outside. They are back with her favorite stuffed animal. Pecorine finds herself in a dark space. She sees her parents and runs towards them. However, when she calls them, they ask who she is, and it turns into a nightmare. Pecorine wakes up in tears. She's also hungry. Soon, breakfast is ready. Pecorine had gone to the market earlier. Everyone is present, but Carol isn't eating. When asked what is wrong, she says something is missing. There's no bread to sandwich the tasty-looking eggs between. Pecorine is glad she noticed, and tells them about it. There is scarcity of goods at the market, and she learned that a monster is now residing on the bridge leading to town, so goods can't be transported. Pecorine believes that it would help a lot if the authorities in Landasol took action. However, for some reason, the royal palace is not doing anything. Frustrated, she had gone to the guild association and found a quest application. She wants their team to take it on. Carol asks to see the quest rank and immediately rejects it, warning Pecorine not to bring such dangerous quest so early in the morning. Pecorine insists that everyone is suffering, but Carol still refuses. Carl's quest begins, with Carol assigned as bait for the monster. They need to lure it away from the bridge to prevent destroying the bridge with the monster. Carol is unhappy with this role, feeling she is too smart to be put in such a position. The plan is to trap the monster's feet to immobilize it. Carol jumps over the rope while the monster trips. Pecorine quickly uses her princess strike to finish it off. Pecorine is fulfilled. She thanks her guildmates. Meanwhile, the shadow is already consuming souls. At the guild association, Karin confirms that they have completed the quest and gives them some paperwork to fill out. Yuki takes on the task and everyone praises him for learning well, only for him to misspell something. Carol doesn't miss making fun of him for it. As they leave the guild association, they meet Ikachi and Charlie. Word has already spread that they took out the monster. Yasuko and other traders also come to thank Pecorine. They celebrate her and everyone is happy. On their way home, Carol's stomach rumbles. Pecorine immediately suggests a light afternoon dessert, but we all know it won't be anything light. They arrive at a food stall, and Kokoro and Yuki recall visiting it on the first day they arrived in Land Assault. Pecorine is surprised that they know about it. Charlie had recommended the place to her, but it doesn't seem to get much business despite the amazing taste of their crepes. The salesgirl comes out to welcome them, and it's Reno. She's startled when she sees them, as is Shizuru. Their nervous chicken noises attract the owner of the stall, Akira. Akira is glad to see the team, especially Yuki, who seems to know more now. Yuki introduces Pecorine and Carol as his friends, and Akira is happy, saying they make a nice picture. She mentions that she has to take care of some things and leaves them in the hands of Shizuru and Reno. Shizuru tells them that anything they eat is on the house and encourages them to enjoy as much as they like. Big mistake. They soon realize this when they struggle to keep up with feeding the monster they summoned. Carol worries for their stall, fearing they might close down after this. Eventually, Pecorine finishes and feels satisfied. Luckily, Shizuru and Rhino survive. They console themselves with the joy of seeing Yuki smile. By evening, Akira arrives in a village where the shadow had consumed souls, and she is furious. Meanwhile, the shadow continues to approach Landasol and is growing stronger. Why Yuki finds himself in a nightmare filled with visions of an enemy and his friends dying. Anger wells up inside him during the dream, but Amith manages to snap him out of it. Yuki asks if it was a dream, and Amith responds that it wasn't because he has formed bonds with many people. Deeper memories within him are beginning to awaken. She explains that what he saw was both a dream and a reality. It might be a past he has relived repeatedly, or perhaps a glimpse of the future. Amith tells him that the time is drawing near, and although she feels sorry for pushing him too hard, there is no other choice. She expresses her faith in him just as he is transported back into his body. Determined, Yuki asks for sword training, and Pecorine agrees to help him. They spend the day focused on basic training, and Kokoro and Carol watch with pride. Yuki has been working tirelessly each day. Pecorine takes it around to food with the excuse that you can't go to war on an empty stomach. Yuki buys into her reasoning and begins munching on food seriously. However, Carol is absent. She has an errand to run first. Pecorine worries about running out of food before Carol arrives, but quickly suggests they could just order the same things again when Carol gets there. Yuki can't take it anymore. Before anything can happen, they are distracted by some men discussing Princess Justiana. One man mentions he saw her briefly and that she has the kind of beauty that would give you chills, but she doesn't care about the peasants. Kokoro points. It's been a while since they came to Landasol, but they haven't had the opportunity to see the princess yet. She looks forward to the opportunity. Pecorine, however, seems uncomfortable with the topic. Meanwhile, Carol stops to feed some cats on her way back and encounters Charlie and Ikachi, who join her to head to the restaurant. Suddenly, a huge shadow looms over them. It's the shadow monster. Dude hulked up. Carol remembers the creature. At the restaurant, Pecorine and the others feel a violent impact from the destruction outside, prompting Pecorine to leap into action. It's chaotic outside. She meets Charlie and Ikachi, who inform her that a monster is rampaging through the city and that they have lost sight of Carol. Pecorine vows to protect the town and everyone in it. The shadow monster is already snatching people up. The remaining townsfolk question where the royal knights and the princess are. Pecorine jumps into action, rescuing their man. She continues to block the monster's strikes, giving the townspeople a chance to escape. Spotting Carol, she encourages her to join in the fight. The monster, however, targets Carol, lunging at her, but Pecorine uses her princess strike to slice the creature in half. Kokoro and Yuki finally arrive, relieved and happy that Pecorine has saved the day once again. But it's too soon to celebrate. The monster revives itself, quickly recovering within seconds, enough to launch a massive attack that takes Carol and Pecorine. When Carol regains consciousness, she finds Pecorine struggling to hold up a huge rock while the monster repeatedly punches her. Carol's foot is pinned, preventing her from helping. Pecorine selflessly gives Carol her shoulder guard for protection. Carol is furious at her for being so reckless, but Pecorine, fearless, charges straight at the monster. She delivers a mighty strike, but afterward she collapses from exhaustion. Kirill angrily calls her a fool for trying to protect the weak. She feels especially guilty since she had considered abandoning Pecorine. Just then, Kokoro and Yuki arrive to find Carol and Pecorine just as the monster rejuvenates once more. Yuki suddenly unleashes his fury. This guy's powers activate on anime protagonist timing only. His magic extends to cover his teammates as well, but soon he starts experiencing flashes of the visions from earlier and loses his power. The monster attempts to attack him, but Yuki is shielded and then transported away, along with his friends and the monster itself. Yuki finds himself in a strange new location. He's worried about Kokoro and the others, but a voice reassures him that she has safely tucked them away. It's Akira. She uses the crepe stall as a front to conceal her true identity. Kokoro finds herself inside a castle and comes across a portrait of Pecorine with her parents. Pecorine enters the room, and Kokoro is relieved to see that she's alright. Kokoro asks where they are, and Pecorine explains that they are at Landasol Castle. Curious about the portrait, Kokoro asks about it, and Pecorine apologizes for keeping it a secret. She reveals that she is actually Princess Justiana Justiana, the real princess, not the one currently in the palace. However, everyone has forgotten about her, including her parents. Not long ago, it was time for Justiana to go out and live among the people to better understand them and mature enough to rule. Her mother gifted her a tiara, one of the royal accessories passed down through generations. This tiara would keep her safe, but the only catch was that using it would make her very hungry. They were a happy family, and Pecorine set off in excitement. During her travels, she spent time with the people and experienced many things across the continent. However, when she returned to Landisol after completing her journey, nobody remembered her, not the guards nor the maids or butlers. She went to the throne room to present herself to her parents, hoping they would be happy with her after her journey. But when they didn't respond, she assumed she hadn't done enough. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. They simply didn't remember who she was. A girl then sauntered into the room posing as Princess Justiana and attempted to eliminate Pecorine. Fortunately, she managed to escape. After that, she set out on another journey without a destination. That is when she met Kokoro, Yuki, and Carol. She felt so much happiness being with them and life was good, but she always worried that everyone would forget her again. Kokoro finally understands why Pecorine often hugged the people who were important to her. It was so that the connections she had with them wouldn't fade away. Kokoro feels sympathy for Pecorine and comforts her, promising to never leave her, regardless of who she is. She believes Yuki and Carol feel the same way. Meanwhile, Carol, who is standing by the door, overheard everything and feels terrible. Akira assures Yuki that she is not his enemy and explains that the space they are in is one she has created, which looks identical to Amit's place. Akira mentions that it is sweet of Amit to help Yuki gradually restore his memories. She offers him some magic, telling him that the power is meant for saving his friends, but warns him that it could also destroy him. It remains unclear whether his memory loss was caused by the redive. If he unleashes the power in his current state, there is no certainty about how it would affect his existence. Akira says that this might explain why the earlier fight didn't go well. The shadows attack people to steal their souls. They have already wiped out an entire village and are on the hunt for more powerful souls. She informs Yuki that someone is orchestrating this, and as long as he is trapped in his world, he will never escape them. This world exists because of a battle between him and that person. Yuki realizes that his nightmare was actually a memory. Rijay. Meanwhile, the townspeople are searching for Pecorine and the others amid the rubble. Tomo, Matsuri, and some other knights arrive on the scene and instruct the people to leave as it is still dangerous. They refuse to budge, and although Matsuri wants to argue, Tomo stops her. Jun, the captain of the palace knights, soon arrives and they immediately get to work. Babo gathers info from a witness and reports it to Jun. Christina, the vice captain, joins them but seems to doubt that the fight even happened, noting that there are no casualties and they hadn't even heard about the said monster until it vanished. Tomo and Jun are speechless. Jun warns Christina about her careless remarks, but she brushes it off, saying she is merely talking to herself. Nevertheless, she continues, wondering why a beast is sitting on the throne in a human land before walking away. In the alternate space, Carol is fighting the monster. She realizes she is once again getting in her master's way, but she feels she has no choice. Carol wonders how she ended up in this predicament, calling herself a fool. She gives up fighting, accepting to die. Suddenly, Pecorine intervenes and asks Carol to help her defeat the monster. Meanwhile, Yuki remains dumbfounded. Akira apologizes for telling him too much all at once, but promises that everyone in the labyrinth will protect him and his friends. Finally speaking up, Yuki declares that he will protect his friends. Akira is satisfied with his response. Shizuru and Rino reach out, asking if they can intervene since Yuki's friends are having a hard time. Akira tells them not to worry, as everything is ready. She uses her object transformation power to transport them, also lending some magic to Yuki. He lands at the fight scene with an attack. No Yuki enhances the magical powers of his teammates, and they prepare to fight. Kokoro provides additional support magic, and Pecorine strikes first with her Princess Strike. Carol follows up with Grimburst, but the monster refuses to back down. Now it's time for the final strike. Kokoro uses support magic to give Yuki a body of steel and the speed of a falcon. With one strike, the monster is defeated. Akira and her girls are proud of Yuki. She teleports them back. Meanwhile, Charlie and Ikachi mourn the loss of their beloved Pecorine and her friends. However, Yasuko refuses to lose hope. The team suddenly appears at the restaurant, and now it's tears of joy as everyone celebrates their return. Pecorine and Carol are closer. Life returns to normal, and the Gourmet Guild is ready to go on another adventure.